Hey, everybody, and welcome to another installment, yet another edition of Work Your Career Wednesday. As always, I'm Bradley Clark, and so thrilled, honored, and blessed that you decided to tune in and join us today. I tell you, we have one heck of a show today, and I'm so thrilled of who we have on. Let me pay some bills real quick, and then we'll get to Mr. Pettersen, because I tell you, if you're in the music business, you want to tune in to this show, and I'm so glad you're here. But first, talk about White Husky Films. If you have everything, anything, and well, I guess anything, because I tend to repeat that, that you want documented via film, whether it's a commercial, music video, which is kind of cool, Ed, that we're talking about music today because, music videos.
Yeah.
You want to contact Steven Saldana, the number's on the screen, or if you're listening, go to www.whitehuskyfilms.com. Dream, create, record in that order. And when you choose White Husky, you will be so glad you did. And Jane's Physical Therapy. Oh my goodness. The premier home care physical therapy specialist in the New Orleans area. Really in Louisiana, but he is looking to fill four jobs. You know what? We got a physical therapist in Lafayette. We're still looking for a PTA in Lafayette area, but in New Orleans, I'm telling you, we have some amazing opportunities there for physical therapists and physical therapy assistants. And I'm telling you, this place is growing like mad. And these are the people you want to, if you ever thought of going into home care, I am telling you, this is the place to go. Jane's Physical Therapy. Contact him on LinkedIn. And you know what? I'm helping recruit on this. So contact me on LinkedIn. Just type in Bradley Clark. My photo, Ed, I look like a Remax agent. I'm telling you, I can sell your house. Okay. So look for that. That photo and get in contact with me. We also have the job posted on the White Husky Films LinkedIn page. So go ahead and apply there, or you can go ahead and apply directly to Jane's Physical Therapy, JAYNES Physical Therapy. And I am telling you, this is the place you want to work. And I got to tell you, Ed, if I had the opportunity to have home care physical therapy after my car accidents, or when I used to perform, it was a lively show, so I would re-injure myself all the time. I would have definitely gotten in contact with whoever I needed to get in contact with and get the service. So Jane's Physical Therapy, you got to apply and look him up. Casey is an amazing guy. We did a show with him, and I think you'll feel the same way I do. Now let's get on with the show. Okay. Now, Ed, you know this if you've seen some of the shows. When I'm talking about our guests usually have credits a mile long, and you're no exception. Thanks for condensing it a little bit. But let me read this. So Ed Pettersen is an award-winning songwriter, producer, and musician who has earned respect for his own folk and Americana albums. It is in his 9-year effort behind the production of a 3 CD, 50-song compilation, Song of America, and frequent jazz or free improv collections. Oh, we're going to talk about that. That have garnered him international recognition. He is also the co-founder and principal in the groundbreaking London Experimental Ensemble. This is amazing. His songs have been recorded by Bettye, LaVette, Staton, and so many others. Let me tell you, without further ado, I am honored that you decided to come on. May I introduce Mr. Ed Pettersen. Ed, thanks so much for coming on. It's a huge honor.
Howdy. Oh, come on. It's my pleasure.
Well, as a musician myself, and I in my experience, I plodded through the music business, making probably every mistake you could possibly make. And when I got into the Christian gospel world, I did that because I had a heart for it. I have a heart for it. My mom was a gospel singer, and so I felt like I was also kind of continuing the legacy that for her. And she was amazing in the 70s and 80s, really did a lot of things in the gospel world. But what really impresses me about you, man, is you're on TikTok. If you're not following Ed Pettersen on TikTok or Instagram, this man goes out of his way to talk about the business, really, really helping a lot of artists, particularly in this new age. And he gives it to you straight. He gives it to you absolutely unfiltered, straight, well, we're talking about, digital distribution. And he's like, look, they still haven't figured it out. We're still dealing with stuff from the early 20th century, on how to get artists paid. But Ed, it's just a huge honor, and
Thanks, man.
let's get into it, man.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. Let's tell them the truth.
Let's do that. Well, okay, let's go through your story a little bit. How did you get into music, in and of itself?
Man, that was a huge mistake.
I hear you.
So my grandfather, my mother's father, I'm half Norwegian, half Italian. And the Italian side is very, very musical, very musical. My mother had a beautiful singing voice, but she just, they didn't encourage us to do it, right? She wasn't encouraged. My grandfather, her dad, I was extremely close to, very tight with that man. He was a beautiful human being, wouldn't hurt a fly. And he built a very, very successful contracting business, but he wanted to be a musician, and he was good enough to be in a professional orchestra before. Yeah, he played clarinet in a professional orchestra where they got paid. This is in the 20s, I guess. And excuse me, that's pretty rare. He was good. He was good. And he loved music. I used to sit with him, and he'd put on Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And he would say, okay, Eddie, hear that? Those are the oboes coming in. Now listen for the bassoon. That's the bassoon. And he would conduct and tell me. So here I was as a little kid sitting with this man I adored, and he's telling me all this stuff, but at the same time, he's telling me not to do it. So that kind of sums. Yeah. That's the tug of war that I had to live with, because he was smart. He was smart. He saw how dirty the business could be, even back in the 20s. And he just didn't like it. And I'm with him. I don't like that part of it either. He wasn't wrong. However, when you have something in your heart that you need to say and do, it's kind of hard to stop it, and if you can do anything else in the world, I would suggest to do it, right? Like if you can, are you talented at something else? Do it. Make a living, feed your family. But if you can't do anything else, then do music, because, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody. It's just really, this. It's really, really, really hard. And I had a successful advertising career. Don't ask me how I got into that. I was the Don Draper of, because I'm not going to, fudge about it. I was dating a girl whose dad was a very, very wealthy, prominent corporate lawyer. And he was not going to have me marry his daughter because I wanted to be a writer. And he's like, a writer? I'm like, yeah, like write novels. And he's like, oh no. Okay. And so they made up an entire resume for me. And I went and got a job at one of the biggest, and at the time, the only privately held ad agency in New York City. Yeah. Now
we got to get you and Ken Sparrow together. I think that'd be one heck of a show. Oh yeah. Well, he's been on the show, and he's a co-creator of the Geico Gecko. He's got 4 or 5 banners on the Madison Avenue Walk of Fame. You guys would just go to town talking about that business. But I'm sorry, please continue.
It's a trip. It's an adult dose, and and it was okay. I mean, I was making money, but it wasn't really that creative, right? The idea was, oh, you want to be a writer, do this. Well, then I got to know, and it was a total accident. There was some actors that I was hanging out with in New York City. I won't tell you who they are. They're very, very well known now, but then they were just starting out in their career. And, you know, we were guys in our early 20s, like running amok in New York City.
Yeah.
And, you know, I kind of got the entertainment bug a little through them, and through one of them who was working on a film, which later became an Academy Award winning film, a major, big picture. I met this guy named John Bishop, and John Bishop he's probably one of our best playwrights, American playwrights. And he's also written some films. He wrote The Package with Gene Hackman and Drop Zone with Wesley Snipes and Beverly Hills Cop 3 and a whole bunch of other, you know, whatever. And John and I just hit it off, and he was like, hey, you want to, going back to that, I wanted to be a writer, and this plays into the music thing. He's like, hey, you want to like work with me? You know, and because I needed someone like, you know, a producer. It was basically just a right hand, you know, gopher dude. I didn't care. I was in my 20s. I'm like, yes, may I have another, you know?
Sure.
And
absolutely.
Here I'm working with him and all these like heavyweight people, but more importantly, learning about writing and storytelling. And then I go to the gym one day. This is kind of funny because my best friend in the business was Scott Kempner of the Del Lords and the Dictators, and he worked with Dion and the Brandos and Neil Giraldo, you know, from Neil and Patty Benatar. And so one day I go to the gym, and there's this guy working out next to me, and you know, we just start chatting, and it turns out it was Scott Kempner, and he was looking for a roommate, you know, and I was like, I'm looking for a place to live. I mean, this is like in your 20s in New York, you know.
Yeah.
And so Scott and I became roommates, and I would sit there and watch him write songs. And then eventually I would try writing songs, and he'd be like, no, dude. He's like, it goes like this. Let me show you. And then we'd start writing songs together. Anyway, long story short, I made some demos with a friend of his, and somehow those demos got to somebody who then released them without me knowing about it. But it was successful, so I went with it. Okay, I have a career now, and I quit advertising and started being a musician.
When he released it, but your name was on it. So you got your credit and all of that. And that's a big deal, especially, you know, what's hot right now, you know, Cat Williams, talk about comedians stealing jokes and stuff like that. What you're saying is that, it got released. I didn't know it, but you still kept your credit and you were able to make money.
It had my name on it. And it was released in the Netherlands first. And it was hugely successful. Like, you know, back then, and they were folk songs. I mean, it was just me on an acoustic guitar with very minimal arrangement, and it sold like a few thousand copies. And I was like, guess I got a career, you know.
Guess I got a career.
I got a career. So I quit advertising, which, by the way, let me just say, and this goes back to my thing about if you can do anything else, the dumbest thing I ever did was quitting a well-paying day job.
Man.
Because I got a record deal.
Oh, come on, man. That happens all the time.
The dumbest.
Well, especially when you're young, you know.
Oh, man. And, you know, thankfully, like I met an amazing woman who supported me in everything I've done for the last 30 years. And you know, she was like, I got a good job. Go for it, you know?
It's so important. It's so important to have a support system, you know, especially when you're in this business, you know, because it's not one that provides much support at all, if any. And then the other thing too is one thing that I found, and I think it's proven to be true over the years. You know, with enough money, you can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that don't have those kinds of resources to do anything, you know? And so
the weird thing is, not to interrupt, but the weird thing is that you'll be shocked. I was having a conversation with one of my best friends, Henry Kaiser. He's a famous guitar player and producer. And he and I are like I don't know. I'm pretty sure we had the same mother, but I can't swear on it.
I totally get it. Yeah.
And he was telling me like about all these people in the industry who are from very, very wealthy families, because I was complaining, like, because the only person I complain to, I'll complain to my wife once in a while, but Henry, I can complain. That's when you know you have a good friend, right? Like that's the guy I can complain to. And he goes, "Oh man," he goes, "don't you know that his father's like worth hundreds of millions of dollars?" And I'm like, "Is that how he can afford to do?" "Oh yeah, and so his auntie left him, like, he's been drawing from his auntie's thing." What? And then, "Oh yeah," and so I mean, not to disparage that, but again, unless you're from money, you need to have some sort of stability and a support system in your life to do this.
It's so important. It's so important. Well, and the stories of, well, I came from nothing and I worked so hard, and I'm like, that's true. Like sometimes that's true. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes or, you know what I mean? Well, the money instability is like the fuel for a lot of things. And so, it's so true. And a lot of folks don't get it. Let me ask this, I am just, when you do your TikTok videos, I am frequently floored, man. And I'm just like, wow, people that came up like when I did, like late 90s, early 2000s in the rock scene. And then I switched over later into Christian gospel, like, and Christian gospel is where I had the most success, but it's still a business. It's not, it's a business.
Yeah.
And you can be the guy that bucked the tide like I did. Like I was like, I refuse to wear skinny jeans. I don't care. Nobody wants to see that. Especially me.
I'm with you, man. They look stupid.
I mean, dude, come on. I'm like,
tapered. You want to wear tapered jeans? Cool. But that looks rock and roll. But like skinny jeans.
I mean, dude, really? I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, but I'm so impressed with how you just give it just unvarnished, unfiltered. This is the way it is. If you don't like it, lump it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, because this is the way it is. Coming from an insider, this is how it is. And I'm trying to tell you, and it's got to come from a place where we didn't have that. It was, sign this contract and thank you. Now I own your name. You're welcome. Here you go. You might be a B-lister. You guys help us with our tax write-offs.
There's something. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
well, why I love this? I'll tell you exactly why. Because so my wife comes from a very good family, right? Like, and a very, very old family indeed. I mean, they've been in this country for over 400 years, like, way back, right? Yeah. And that doesn't give them privilege. That gives them perspective. And they are extremely careful about giving back and not judging and putting across exactly what you want to return. Okay.
I love that.
And I've learned so much from them, because I basically consider myself a street kid, because I was just running amok, and I mean, that line in the movie Grosse Point Blank where he's like, well, I took this test and they showed I had a moral flexibility. So they sent me off to become, and like if they had given me a test when I was 19, I would have been that guy that they would have sent in to, like, be like a professional assassin or something, because I just was like, yeah, let's go, and so their perspective has been vital to me. And indeed, what I said earlier about, my grandfather didn't like the dirtier aspects of what goes on. And it made me want to take a shower every time I dealt with people. And I said, you know what? It seems to me, and this is what it comes down to, it seems to me that everybody I see on social media is selling something.
Absolutely.
They're
That's
selling,
a fact.
they're trying to sell you their course. They're trying to sell you a way to get more spins or more looks or more this or more that. Everybody, even the people that you hear people say, oh, that person's great, right? No, I do not believe so. Right. And they're like, why not? I'm like, I'll give you an example, a quick one before we go off tangent, but it's pertinent. There's a guy who's got, and I don't have that many followers. I only have, maybe 3,700 or something. That's not a lot. There are people with hundreds of thousands and millions.
Oh, sure.
But there's a guy who I know has probably 1 million followers on every platform. Wow. And so one day, I don't know anything. I didn't know any. I kind of knew his name. One day I get this thing in my email feed saying, oh, so-and-so is going to offer you a free 1 hour insight in how to get sync. Okay. How to get synced, right? How to get your songs in film and television. And I'm like, well, I've had some of my songs in film and television, but all right, I can spend an hour with this. I mean, I might learn something. It's free, right? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. It's free. So I wrote back to the service that I used that sent me this link. And I'm like, you guys are just as big a con men as this guy is for sending that out to us under the guise of free. Okay. Let me explain to you real quick. So the first 20 minutes, he just touted himself and gave you all of his wonderful credits and his career achievements. I am not kidding. 20 minutes. Then for 10 more minutes, he introduced a couple of his friends and told you about their achievements and what we're going to talk about. Then the last half hour was pitching his course. Nothing was shared. I turned it off after 40 minutes. So, okay, maybe he shared something in the last 20, but when he got into, and there's a chat going. And people are in the chat going, oh, sign me up. How much is it? $900. Well, today it's $900. It's usually $1,100. Oh, here, tell me where to send it. And this is my problem with the music business. And this is why I do TikToks, because everybody is trying to sell you something. My goal is, and always has been, practical advice. What it was like for me coming up through the business, all the lumps I took, all the mistakes I made, all the BS I encountered, and how to deal with it.
Well, and how to deal with it as an artist. I mean, the thing is that, and I've known this my whole life and throughout my entire career, really, is that artists, they're not business people. They're artists, and that's, and if you look all through the centuries, that's the way it's been. It's like they've, painters would have patrons or what we would call sponsors, so they can go ahead and do their art. And then they expected things from that artist, like, oh, I don't know, free work. You know what I mean? And, or here, paint my wife or my mistress or whoever. But it's, you know what I mean? Artists are not business people, and they really don't own anything. Right. And that's, and what you're talking about in music is that, you can create it, but in order to have it not be in an echo chamber, you're going to have to share ownership in some way, shape, or form. Here's how to do it successfully to where you're not going to get screwed.
And here's something really valuable. I think two of the most lucky incidents that happened to me in my life was meeting my wife, right? I mean, it's so important, and people like minimize. I don't mean to cut you off, or interrupt you. It's so important. Even George Washington. George Washington did not come up as George Washington until he married Martha Custis. I mean, that's a documented fact. So every person that's going to do something, especially I would say a man, has to have a strong support system from a woman that is there and believes in it. When I go to schools, when I go to colleges and I'm asked to speak to the class, I give them 2 pieces of advice at the end of my chat. One is get a day job and keep it. And the other one, and, keep doing your art, right? But just have something bringing in money, and because, like all the friends of mine that I started in advertising with, do you know how much money they're making today?
I do, because I've recruited them.
Stupid money, like $500,000 a year, right? Like, and sometimes more. A couple of them started their own agencies. Okay. So first piece of advice is get a day job you like, that you are good at, and keep it. And the second piece of advice is marry well.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about money.
Not talking about money. I was just going to say that. You're not talking about money.
I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about make sure that you have someone that understands you and supports you and will be there through thick and thin, because this business is rough.
Well, and it's designed to break you down. I mean, it is designed that way. So many artists that, make it, and I mean, making it in the traditional way. You're making money. People know, you know what I mean? Beyond the fame, it's the money that's coming in. It's when, they start their own gig. They, like Ed Sheeran is, now he's started his own deal. And I think it's great marketing what he's doing. And I think it's really great what he's doing.
Right.
But, but having that support system when you're on the side of on the edge of the bed, weeping and doubting yourself and saying that, you're really not worth anything. If I was worth anything, people would take notice, or they're taking notice, but you have to have that support system, Ed. And
it's the most important thing, because I've got friends of mine. I'm sure same for you and everybody else watching. I have friends of mine in the music business that have been married and divorced 4 times.
Easy. I had an uncle who was married and divorced 10 times, literally 10.
So think about not just the financial hit that is, but the emotional hit.
Oh,
right.
Geez. It's ridiculous.
Devastating. So I would suggest, I don't want to be like the love doctor, but because but I would suggest just do not do anything until you're certain, until you have that person that you can't live without, but that they can't live without you. Right? Like it's like
so important.
And the other thing, going back to what you said before we got off on this tangent, is that, this is important. Now this is a big thing, kids, like who you marry or who you settle with or who you partner with. It is crucial. The other thing is, but you said it earlier, and I want to expand on this before we forget, is so how you collaborate with people in the industry. And Bob Olson, that's the other relationship besides my wife, that I met Bob Olson 22 years ago. And he was one of the original engineers and producers at Motown in 1962. First, let that sink in. He filled out his job application, and Motown, you had to take an IQ test to work there. He filled them out. Yeah. You had to pass an IQ test. That's why they were great. He filled it out on Smokey Robinson's desk at 19 years old. And the first song that Bob ever worked on was Heard It Through the Grapevine. So
he's got some cred.
He's got some cred. He's got 110.
He's done some things.
110 charting songs on his resume. So Bob said to me once, I was dealing with a record label and trying to figure out the order of the album, right? I kind of knew what I wanted to open the record and knew how I wanted to close it. And it's an artistic statement, as you were saying earlier, artist, right? We think as artists, we're not business people. Bob says to me, he goes, why don't you let the record label choose? And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he goes, let them feel like they're involved in the decision-making process. And I'm like,
so big.
I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, if they have ownership beyond the fact that they own it. But if they have ownership in the decision, like the artistic decision-making process, he's like, it's been my experience that they are far more connected and will fight for you more down the road if things don't go as smoothly.
That is so big. If anyone didn't hear what he just said, that is so big. And this is in the days where you put out an album like a painting.
Right.
You know, it had an order and it was specific order, because, and then a lot of times you're going to bury the single because, or if you're lucky enough to have maybe 2 or 3 on there, you're burying because that's not the order of the painting. But if you're collaborating with, oh my God, that is so big, Ed. That is so big. And now when we live in sort of the single sort of mindset, that's even bigger.
Let them pick the single.
Let them pick the single.
Who cares? It's a single. The next one will be out in a month or 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Yeah. God, Ed, I'm just so thrilled about this conversation. We're going to get into a lot of stuff. We're going to get into frequently asked questions and or we're just going to see where this conversation goes, but stick around. We got to pay some bills. We're going to be back with Ed Pettersen. Oh my God. If you're in the music business, this is just gold. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Jerry. It's gold.
It's gold, Jerry. We'll be right back.
Jane's Physical Therapy has immediate openings for full-time and part-time positions. For home healthcare physical therapists and physical therapy assistants, we are actively looking in the New Orleans and Lafayette areas. Call Bradley Clark at 713-364-8777. Join us at Jane's Physical Therapy, and let's help Louisiana get back to living life.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Work Your Career Wednesday. I'm over the moon and thrilled with this conversation. It's, you gotta, one of the things people don't realize, I don't think, is that when you were coming up, when I was in the business, we didn't get this. We had to, this is through learned experience from someone that has been highly successful in the music business. And so, this is, this ain't course material. This is life material.
And that's why I never charge for my advice. I never, it's like someone said to me recently, like there was somebody on TikTok and he's awesome artist, young guy. And he was like,
why don't you put something together?
Yeah. He goes, why don't you do a songwriting course and charge for it? I'm like, nope. And he's like, why not? I said, I'll put one up for free. And he's like, why wouldn't you charge for it? I'm like, because nobody charged me. Right? Like, yeah. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I go, you know how I learned how to write songs? By doing it, by writing and by working with people who were better than me. Bob Olson always says, if you want to be great, you should be the least talented person in the room. Let me repeat it. You should be the least talented person in the room if you want to be great. And so that's what I did coming up. Like I had Scott Kempner and I had John Bishop and I had all of these people around me who were amazing and I knew nothing, but I paid attention and I have a photographic memory and I wrote everything down and I read every book on songwriting. I went to songwriter rounds. I joined songwriter clubs. I took courses where there were people who I knew were great, not just like who had #1 hits. Like there's Hugh Prestwood is, he had like 7 #1 hits in the 80s and 90s. And he taught a class at the New School in New York City because he lived on Long Island. So I went. Now, was it worth it? I mean, yeah, but it wasn't like revelatory, but all of these are pieces of a puzzle. And I learned by doing, and I learned from being on the street. So for me to charge for what I learned because other people were gracious to me, again, I bring up that word dirty. It seems dirty. I'm not against making money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a communist.
Neither are we.
I'm all for it, right?
Yeah.
But like, if we don't help, Bob and I are big on this. If we don't help the next generation grow, then music is going to, I don't know if I can say certain words on your thing.
You can say it. You can.
Okay.
Well, we try to keep it clean, but go ahead.
Okay. Music will suck if we don't help the next generation and the generation after that. We need to let them know that they're supported and that we are willing to, it was great. Like, believe it or not, there's a couple guys I went to high school with that are very, very successful, not just in the music business. Like, for instance, like Natalie Portman went to my high school, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Judd Apatow went to my high school, right?
It's awesome.
But there are other people who went to my high school who ended up in the music business, very successful. And one of them's here in Nashville. Actually, a guy who lived around the corner from me is also here in Nashville. He's the guy who signed Dave Matthews,
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
So this is where, and when you also say, where did you come from in music? Well, once I got into high school, my high school was so progressive, right? Like, we had what was called an open campus, which meant, and we were the only one in America, whereas if you didn't have a class, you could leave. You were not trapped, right? You could go to the beach, which is what we did. And we had I took 3 different music classes. There was music composition, music theory, and then regular music instruction. And then we got an avant-garde music department. Like, what high school has an avant-garde music? I mean, so one of the people that came, and we had a radio station, and that radio station has been going strong for 70 years, like,
Jeez.
making money,
Wow.
this radio station. And we all worked there. So one of the guys who went to my high school, I reached out to him and didn't hear from him for a while because I'm working with this new artist. She's 22. She's amazing. She's going to be huge. We're all going to be embarrassed because she's going to be huge, and hopefully she'll forget all our names. And so I reached out to him. I said, "Hey man, would you like meet with her?" And finally, like a month later, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get back." He's like, "Absolutely, I'll meet with her because we need to help these young people. We need to support them and help them and nurture them and let them grow." And I'm like, right on, man.
Right on.
Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, if we're not doing that, what are we doing? I mean,
well, yeah. It seems like a lot of the courses and stuff, and I want to get your perspective on this. A lot of the courses are designed for folks that, really don't have a clue. They know they have an idea, and it's sort of a shortcut into what you can do. And the fact of the matter is that none of it is a substitute for hard work, and making your own mistakes. The problem I see is that particularly, you got to be there. So one thing about you is that you're in New York, you're in the right place, the right time. You could throw a rock and find a future star. Now you're in Nashville, you could throw a rock and you find somebody that's going to do something. Even people that are bucking the tide of Nashville, you know what I mean? Right. Go to Nashville, in Tennessee, where every ville is a vull. You know what I'm saying? I love it. But I love what you're saying about, really it's about the hard work and also the etiquette. It's the etiquette, I just look back at myself and I would love to go back in time and just really kick my own behind, like up and down the street. Ego, huge, just, and in my opinion, I feel like God had to really take me and just beat the living crap out of me. You know what I mean? And I'm just so glad he did. I've had that advice myself. You have to be the least talented person in the room and just soak it all in. Just shut up and soak it all in. And it's so right,
and you get so much better faster. It's like amazing, So when I first got here, Bob brought me here. Bob asked me, I wasn't going to come to Nashville. I was happy in New York. I had a career and whatever. Right. And Bob was like, "Hey, listen, the Motown Funk Brothers," this was in 2001. He goes, "The Motown Funk Brothers have this movie coming out and they think there's going to be a little resurgence and interest into what they did. And, two of the guitar players from the original three can't do it because one guy has made a fortune in his family's supermarket business. That's Joe Messina. And then Eddie Chank Willis is in a wheelchair, but they're in the movie, but they can't, they can't tour or do whatever. He's like, I think you'd be the right guy for this. And I was like, what? I'm an artist, but I'm an artist. And then my wife was like, we're packing up and going to Nashville. That's what we're doing.
There it is again. That support system so big.
So that's it, man. And then, so the first week, so we just literally packed up. And a week later, we were in Nashville. Fortunately, our landlord let us out of our lease. And I arrive in Nashville. Now, did I think I was as good as these guys? Like, no bleeping way. And I found out just how weak I was very quickly. However, because I shut my mouth and was willing to learn and learn and learn, and they liked me, which is the other part of this business. You have to, nobody wants to work with a jerk, nobody. And so if they like you and you listen, so my first session, I get the call. They're like, okay, go down. I hadn't even unpacked. They're like, go down to Ocean Way, one of the most famous studios. We got a session. Okay, what do I bring? They're like, nothing. Just go down there. Nothing? Not even my guitar. Like, just go down there. So I go down there, and it's the Funk Brothers are making a record with the James Brown All-Stars. The JB All-Stars and the Funk Brothers. And I walk in and I'm like, what's happening? And Jack Ashford, the famous tambourine player, Jack goes, join me in the booth. Okay, goes in the booth. He's like, here. And he hands me a block, right? He's like, you play the block while I do this live. And we're going to overdub on this thing. And I'm like, what do I say? Genius. I don't play the block?
It's genius.
That's genius, though. Of course I play the block. Yes, I'm an excellent block player.
I'll play. Hey, I got a cup. You want to play the cup? I'm the best
block player that ever lived. So I'm in there and I'm doing the thing. And it's just like, and Jack was like, he was a wizard. He was a wizard. I'm pretty sure he had a cape that you just couldn't see. And we're doing this thing. And then, and then it just took off. But and then Bob says to me one day, and this is why you work with people better than you. Bob says, hey, I just spoke with Tom Dowd. Tom Dowd, the famous Atlantic Records engineer and producer who recorded and produced Layla, right? Amongst many other great the Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner. I don't know. He's got you got to look up Tom Dowd. He's one of the greatest engineers. All the Aretha Franklin stuff, right? Okay. Gospel. You're a gospel guy. Tom Dowd, right? So,
wow. And
right.
You're just chilling there.
Well, yeah. He's like, well, I'll just talk to Tom Dowd. And he goes, and Tom Dowd says that, since Reggie Young is here, and Reggie Young's the most recorded guitar player in history. He's played on more hits than anybody in the world. He goes, well, since Reggie's here, and since Ed Green, who played with Steely Dan and Jeff Beck and Marvin Gaye and Barry White and Glenn Campbell, and he goes, and since Bob Babbitt from the Motown Funk Brothers is here, because a lot of the Funk Brothers moved here, which is why I moved here, he goes, we should form a rhythm section. And I'm like, gosh. So wait. Okay. So I'm like, are you kidding me? This is insane. So we get them together and they all dying to play together because no one ever puts them together on a session because they each have their specialty, but they love each other and they just want to play R&B music. And they like, Ed, just find us some stuff and we'll play. But wait, it gets better. So then I got this publishing deal and I'm writing songs. And the publisher goes, okay, these 2 songs, man, or it might even have been 3. It was 3 songs. One was for Jamie Johnson. One was supposed to be for Sarah Evans. And the other one was supposed to be for George Strait. I can't remember. And so they're like, we have to go cut these with the A-team, right? The Nashville A-team at the time, which was, Brent Mason and Eddie Bayers and Dave Hungate and all the, right? Okay. So I go down to Sony Studios. This is all like in the first couple of weeks, right? And I go down there and I'm watching them play my songs. And I'm like, oh my God, I really suck. I'm like, I am not good. But thankfully, they are. And I'm going to take everything I can from this situation. And out of that, I became very good friends. It was multiple sessions, but on every session, Dave Hungate was the bass player on every session. And he's from Toto and played on Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline and hundreds and hundreds of, Boz Scaggs Lowdown and Lido Shuffle, you know, that boom.
Oh, yeah.
That's Dave Hungate, right? Okay, right. And then Catherine Marks was playing keyboards. And I just thought that Catherine, more than the guys, not that the guys playing weren't also brilliant. I mean, it's the A team. But Catherine just had a sensitivity and a sensibility, if you will, that I'm like, okay, these are the other two pieces of the puzzle. So Bob's like, so we bring him in, and Hungate's known as a bass player, right? So we get in, and Hungate sees Bob Babbitt, and he goes, oh man, he goes, Babbitt's my hero. I'll play guitar. And we're like, but you're Dave Hungate. And he goes, no, I got the guitars in the car. Hold on, let me go get them. And Hungate goes out to the car and he brings in banjos, trombones, which is his first instrument, guitars, resonators, whatever. What do you need? And guess what? Dave Hungate's a better guitar player than me as well. And I'm going, okay, all right. And then we'd start recording. And
so you handled that way better than I would have. I would have been like, can we incorporate all of them? I guess, are you gonna charge me per instrument, or can we, what are we gonna do? Other than that, I'll take the banjo, the guitar, and okay, that's it for now. I would have been in awe. I'd have been in awe.
Genius. He's an absolute, he's a monster. I mean, people always say to me, like, who's the best musician you ever worked with? And that's a difficult question to answer. But what I always say is, what you do at every recording session is everybody there is amazing and brilliant and legendary, usually, right, in Nashville. But you go and watch who they go huddle over to see what their chart looks like. And the guy with the chart that used to get huddled over was Dave Hungate. They'd always be like, what's Dave got? Hey, Dave, what do you got over here? Like they wanted to know Dave's chart. That's the best musician in the room.
Okay. Keep going with the story. Keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just like, wow, this is amazing.
I felt very self-conscious about playing with them. I'm like,
I'm surprised you did, honestly.
Eventually, Dave, again, Hungate, spoke up and went like, well, why don't you play acoustic on this? And
man, what an honor.
God. And I was like, and then as I'm, sitting down, this is great. You're going to love this. I'm sitting down and getting ready to play. He goes, oh, by the way, if you're 100th of a millisecond off, you're going to screw us up. Oh, he was doing it just to mess with me.
I love that so much.
That's how,
God, dude.
That's how bad they are, man. And he wasn't kidding, because if you look at the waveforms, which I don't recommend paying too much attention to because you'll just lose your mind, but if you look at the waveforms, they're locked. They're locked. And you just learn. You just go, well, they're better than me. I'm the producer anyway, so it doesn't matter. I get to call the shots. So, and you know how you become a good producer? You trust the other people in the room.
1000% accurate. Wow. That's so true.
You got 5 producers. You've got Dave Hungate, Bob Babbitt's played on Midnight Train to Georgia, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours, Band of Gold, Ball of Confusion. You've got Reggie Young, who played on Son of a Preacher Man, Suspicious Minds, and Lukenbach, Texas. And then you got Ed Green, who played on Steely Dan records and played on all the Barry White hits. He played on Rhinestone Cowboy. And you've got 5 producers in the room. You go, hey, what do you guys think?
That's right.
That's how you become a brilliant producer. I mean, you have to, like, the way I was taught back in the old school day was pre-production. So
yeah,
you'd write the song, but you'd work out the key, you'd change it a million times, you'd rewrite the song, you'd rearrange it, you'd work on different ways. Can we do it this way? Can we do it that way? Like how many different angles can we look at it? But then when the pre-pro is done, you've got 5 producers in the room.
Well, and then don't discount the engineer. I mean, if you had a great engineer,
right,
that engineer could probably come up with ideas that you hadn't thought of yet. You know, I mean,
you let everybody be a professional.
We're going to go through the next break. I'm not going to take another break. We're going to keep going. Ed, this is so good. Ed Pettersen, I'm telling you, this is, if you guys aren't following on TikTok and Instagram and you're in the music business, honestly, just go buy a course somewhere and go figure it out. This guy is, here's the perspective.
And YouTube, find me on YouTube.
Oh, too. YouTube. Oh, sorry about that. YouTube.
No, because I usually post the same stuff on TikTok and YouTube.
Well,
and then
we're going to have everything, all of your links and everything in the description. So go to the description and go follow Ed Pettersen. This is gold. I want to get your perspective on this. Okay. So I remember back in the day, one time I had a near disaster at the Great American Music Hall. I'll never forget it. My whole band quit on me the night before. And seriously, it was a thing. My whole band quit on me. Wow. So I went to, Ben Fung Torres was a friend, and he was coming to the show specifically to see me. And so I went to the venue, and there was a band there called Callahan at the time. And they were opening, we were all going to open for a guy that used to be on, I don't know. He was Spike. His name is James Marsters. He had a hit TV show about vampires. It's Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he had a band called Ghost and a Robot. Right. So this was kind of a big deal for me at the time. So I'm trying to make it. I'm trying, whole band quit on me the night before. That's the other thing about being a solo artist. I learned a lot that night, and I was wrong. I was in the wrong, and they felt disrespected. I don't blame them. I would too. You know what I mean? So again, etiquette and knowing your limits, knowing your limitations. If you feel like you said, if you feel like you're the smartest person in the room, get a new room, honestly, because you will be thrown down a peg, not knocked down a peg. You will be thrown down like a staircase. I'm telling you. So anyway, Ben was there, so gracious. He gave me the best compliment I've ever had. I don't mean to make this about me, but he said, it doesn't matter if you're playing in a room of 10 or 10,000, it's always the same show. And I've always, felt great about that. Well, Callahan awesome. Let me do a song with them. It was The Letter. So I did The Letter with them. And afterwards, we had set up the merch table, people bought stuff. So it was cool. There was a lot of people there that were in bands, and they would give me their CD. And I'm sad to say that a lot of them I never listened to, because it didn't cost me anything. And who knows, that might have been, that I might have found a new star in that, but who knows, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that you're doing is so beautiful. It's that, look, you're putting all of this stuff out there for free, and people might not gravitate towards it because it's free, because you're not charging for it. And so it's like, well, it's free. It's not. Look, some of the best lessons I've ever had in my life have always been bought, you know what I mean? In one way, shape, or form.
Yeah. What
you're doing is, and if people don't see it and people don't gravitate toward it, like in this conversation, it's the goal that you're putting out there is so important. I'm sorry I had to say that, but I want to get your perspective real quick on that, where if people don't buy it, they're not going to value it.
I do think you're onto something there, and I do think that is extremely valid. It's just, unfortunately, it's how we've been conditioned as a consumer society.
Right.
If you buy it, it's worth something. That's not true.
It's not true.
I mean, I don't want to get,
well, rather,
it's
not always true. It's not always true.
Well, I don't want to get all biblical and religious or anything, but like some of the things, go back to the Bible, like, it's like, how many times do we have to be taught that things can't be bought?
Come on.
I mean, hello. Yeah. And don't call yourself whatever religious denomination you belong to.
Right.
If you don't actually behave in the way befitting to the scriptures, right? Like it's either one way or the other. You can't start bending one way or the other because it behooves you to do so, or it might benefit you in some way. No. There's a reason the words are in red. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because I'm not extremely religious. I don't want to
get it.
Yeah. But it's just, I was brought up in a very religious family, and we can talk about that some other time, but they believed it.
Yeah.
They were committed to it. So
and look how it's influenced you in through the years. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Exactly.
And we're red letter friendly on Work Your Career Wednesday, sir.
And people, and you're right, people sometimes they need to pay for it to have weight, right?
Right.
However, the reason I do this, more than any other reason, more than philosophical, more than a spiritual reason, is, do you know how much money I have blown in my career? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. My wife, it's funny because conservatively. I mean, that was about 10 years in, was about 250 grand. Now I'm way, but 10 years in my career, my wife and I had figured out that we had blown, because it ain't coming back, $250,000. Now, I have had a successful career. I have made money, but there's certain monies you pay. And a lot of those monies are for services you didn't need, are for courses you didn't need to take.
Right.
Okay. That's why I do this. And the father of this young artist I'm working with was like, he was lamenting about spending money, and how costly it is. And I told him that specifically. I said, well, 10 years in, we had, thrown away, we might as well have lit it on fire. And I said, and this is again to get back to why you need a partner in life who is committed and just believes in you beyond all reason. My wife said, well, if you had gone to college for this, we would have spent that much money, and then you would have had a degree, but you wouldn't be playing with Reggie Young.
Come on, man. Yes.
My wife's like,
so
you
good.
Got to play with Reggie Young. And you got to play with Dave Hungate and Bob Babbitt and Catherine Marks and Ed Green. And I mean, come on,
yeah,
that's my education.
It's so big.
But that doesn't mean you should throw that money down the sewer. Right. And I'm trying to help people, because it took me 30 years to get to the point where I can retire now and I don't need to do anything. And I'm cool with that. I never had a real desire to be the guy out front, and I'm not Bruce Springsteen. I can't jump around and like, hey, you in the back over there, woo, woo, that's not me, man. That's not me.
Yeah, if it was you, I guarantee you'd need physical therapy. I'm just saying.
And you'd have to call Jane's.
That's
you would have
gotta
to
call Jane's physical therapy. That's oh man, Ed, you are so awesome. This is so cool. I want the whole audience to realize something, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I am a tiny bit starstruck talking to you about this, and I appreciate so much of it. I'm gonna tell you, I told my wife this the other day because I sent you, because we re-released some of the music that I had taken down because of legal issues, and we're 10 years in, after we won awards on it, I'm re-releasing stuff, and I sent it to you. One of the things I think I sent Hold On, and then we did a cover of Sweetly Broken, and that was our first radio single, and I sent it to you, and you said good stuff. And I told my wife about it, dude. I was like, Ed just said it was good.
And if I say it's good, it's really like, I'm not just puffing, like,
oh, dude,
like it's good. And if it isn't, and I hope people appreciate that too. If you send me something, I will be honest with you. Just
be ready for it. And be good with it. If it's not good, you're gonna say it's not good. And I don't want people to start sending you in every single. And again, why not? I mean, why not? If you respond to it and you give the honest opinion, you can take that to the bank. It's either good or go back and fix it. It's better.
Like I do a lot of mastering too, because I love it. And that's one of the skills, like Bob's like one of the greatest that ever lived at it. And he's taught me a lot. And one of the things that he did and still continues to do when people send him stuff and when people send me stuff is I'll be like, this can be better.
Yeah.
I'll work. I'll take your money, but here's what I would do first if I were you.
Well, you can only polish so much, I mean, if what you get, and that's the other thing people don't understand. It's almost like, I had my cardiologist on, he's going to be on the week after this show airs. And he said, he reiterated that a pound, so what is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And it's the same in music. It's the same in business. If you're going to get it, you can only send in something and they can only work with what you send in, or if you're mastering it yourself, let's say, you can only master what you have, right? You can't, there's only so much you can tweak,
Yeah. If you have the ability to go back and tweak the mix.
Oh, yeah.
Then that's different. Yeah, of course. And that's what I'm suggesting. If you can't, I mean, Bob and I can do a lot. Like if people are shocked. They're like, oh my God, like, how did you do that? And I'm like, it wasn't easy, but like I literally somebody, and this is not to mock them because the situation they were in, they couldn't do anything about it. But I had somebody send me a record to master. I am not kidding. It sounded like it was recorded in the next room with a microphone with a blanket over it. But it was all that existed of that band. So they had no choice. And when I gave it to them, they were just like, what the what? And I'm just like, floored. Man, I'm like, it took me, it was work, but you're my bud. So, but if you can go back to the mixes, I will always give you suggestions. And it's all part of like, it's not taking someone's money unless we can all be great.
Right. Yeah.
Let's all be great. What's wrong with that? You think there's only room for two people to be great? You think there's only room for Taylor Swift and whoever the big Harry Styles. That's it. That's all there's. Maybe not.
Right. Well, okay. So, man, Ed, you got to come back. Really, I would love to have you back, brother. Real quick, because we're running out of time. I know you have to get going. You have a meeting coming up.
What time?
So,
it's
10 after. So, real quick. Advice for, because I was going to go through frequently asked questions, but advice for people, especially in an era where, if you got enough money, you don't really need a record label, but it's always nice to have them, right? I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What would your advice be for artists that like that's their goal? Like they want to be, they think the record deal is going to be the thing that makes them. What's your advice? And then what's your advice for them on that? And then what would your advice be if they're looking at a contract? What should they look for so they get the best bang for their buck? Because ultimately it's all going to cost you money.
It's all going to cost you money. Well, okay. So the first thing I would think about is, a record deal is not the be all end all, right? Like a record company nowadays is only valuable to you once you've reached a certain height, once you've reached a certain level. Because
and what's that level? So they understand.
I would say,
are you saying gold? Are you saying approaching gold or?
Yeah, I would say
okay.
Gold or greater.
Okay.
And where you're filling decent sized theaters, you know, like,
okay.
Like not clubs, like I can fill a club. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, a folk singer can fill a club. When you're filling 500 seat or more theaters,
okay,
and you're reaching gold, and those two things usually are together.
Bump it up against each other.
Yeah, they're close. I mean, they're relatively within the range of each other. When you're in the gold filling theater range, and every artist is different. Some artists don't perform as much as others, but still could reach gold. So, you have to gauge that with a grain of salt, depending on the type of music and the type of artist. And let's say if you're a very theatrical artist and you present well in theaters or larger even, then that's perfect. But if you're a moodier type of, like, if PJ Harvey came along today, would she be playing arenas or even filling theaters with her first album? Because I encourage everybody to go watch there's the Paris Olympia. She played there a few months ago with her new album and her new band. And it was recorded beautifully in HD and recorded. Oh, it's gorgeous. It sounds amazing. And she's just exquisite. But it's a very demure show, right? There's nothing big and grand about it. So if you're that kind of artist today, it might take longer to fill a theater. Right. So what I'm saying is, yes, the gold and the filling theaters usually goes hand, but sometimes there's a little disparity. So if you're around that level, then yes, that's when you get a label involved because of their marketing, because of the money they can put into you, because they're tied in with Live Nation, and or you can open for a bigger act already on their bill, yada, yada, yada. So, but that shouldn't be the goal in the beginning. The goal in the beginning is to connect with fans, right? Like,
there you go.
You want your music, that Bob is always saying this and nobody listens. You want to move people. You want to move people. If your music, trust me on this, kids, if your music moves people, you will gain fans and you will build an audience and you will get there. It might take longer than a Taylor Swift who had a lot of money and push behind her, or,
right.
From
the beginning.
Yeah. But, I have nothing against Taylor Swift. My preferences lie more in other areas, but, she seems like a perfectly nice person and does good things with her money. So, but depending on what kind of artist you are, you need to move people with your songs. I would put all the effort into your songs. I would learn everything there is to know about songwriting, every freaking aspect, every detail, every subtlety, how every word matters, every word, even the word and where you put it matters. You dig?
I did.
Do that first, and then figure out how to take all that knowledge and move people. And if you can move people and make them dance, well, then I think you can take over the world, right? Like that's what Motown did. Like think of all those Motown songs. Like people say I'm the life of the party because I tell a joke or two, though I might be laughing loud and hearty. Deep inside, I'm blue. So take a good look at my face.
Oh,
I mean,
man,
come on, man. He's having a conversation with you. And that's why it moved people. I keep telling people this all the time, man. Have a conversation with your audience. And that goes into the songs. It goes into the music. It goes into how you move them. Have a conversation with your audience.
And Smokey sang it with a smile.
And it was breaking his own heart.
I mean, you're saying that, and I'm remembering seeing video, and he was on television shows like Ed Sullivan, I think he did, and he would sing that song, and he sang it with a smile, and he's telling you it's a lie.
Right.
He's telling you this is a performance. I'm telling you, take a good look at my face. You see my smile looks out of place. If you could trace the tracks of my tears, man. I mean,
just like Pagliacci did, I keep my feelings hid.
Yep.
Come on now.
Come on, man. Come on.
That song's going to live for another 500 years.
It really will. It really will. It's so, I've heard so many, songwriters, and it's kind of funny because it usually depends on what instrument they play. So they say, lyrics don't matter. Lyrics are huge. Lyrics are what tell the story it's all symbiotic. You got to remember that, like what you're saying is that the music and the lyrics, there's a reason they come together the way they do.
And I would suggest to go back when I was suggesting to learn everything about songwriting, I would suggest going back 100 years to dissect songs, because like listen to Hoagie Carmichael, listen to Cole Porter, listen to the Gershwins. They were not huge by accident. I get along without you very well. Of course I do, except perhaps in spring. What? Who writes like that?
Who does that? Who says that? Oh my gosh.
So anyway, that's my first bit of it. And what was the second part of the question?
Well, I think you answered it, but okay. So the second, let's say a band is, I have one in mind. Let's say a band, they're starting to connect with their audience. They're starting to fill clubs, they've gone through the turmoil of whatever.
Oh, the contract part.
But the contract part of it, what should they look out for when they're, let's say they're a band that actually a label takes notice of, and they're like, this is really great. What should they look out for in the contract so they don't kind of get screwed?
They should look for an out.
What does that mean?
There should be a term. Make sure it's like 5 years or whatever. Like you should be able to get out.
Right. And so you should own your name. They shouldn't own your name in perpetuity.
Exactly. You should be able to own. So there should be an out for the masters, even if it's 25 years, whatever the standard is. There should be an out for the masters. There should be an out of the contract entirely, meaning the recording contract. Like if you don't feel comfortable, you can let them know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just telling you from situations that I've had where, you can have it in the contract that you give them 18 months advance notice to tell you you're out unless they provide certain things. And then the contract is null and void. So there has to be a term of the contract. The contract has to be 5, 10, 15 years. I would suggest not doing anything more than 5 years for me, because I got trapped in one of those once. And then make sure you own your name, that it's expressly written in blood that you own your name, and have the masters revert back to you at some point, whatever term you can, kind of work out with them amicably. There's a standard now pretty much. And then that the publishing, they never get more than half of your publishing. And if they get half, they have to be working it. And how exactly are they going to work it? And with what subdivision are those songs being pushed to film and television? Right.
I love it. Yeah.
So that's really crucial, but like an out, right? And make sure that the biggest piece of advice I can give any artist is keep control of your universe, your name, your songs, your masters. Never give up 100% of your songs. Never give up 100% of your masters. There always has to be a time limit in every contract. And make sure you own your name. So there's no, believe it or not, I had to defend my name after the Song of America came out. My distributor, my record label and distributor called me up and they're like, hey, why didn't you tell us about this other album? We just released your new album to coincide with the Song of America. Why didn't you tell us about this other one? And I'm like, what other one? And they're like, oh, there's this other album up on iTunes. And I'm like, what? And sure enough, it just so happened that as we were winning awards and on Good Morning America and all this, getting all the press, another Ed Pettersen decided that he was going to release an album. So I had to defend the trademark of Ed Pettersen.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, and then would you also agree that, don't be afraid, to give up some publishing and to give up, maybe songwriting cred for a specific period of time? Because I mean, you're gonna give up something.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, like by letting the record label pick the order of your record, or whatever. Yeah. You got to give up something. And this is why I say, do not rush into a record deal, right? Yeah. Make something for yourself before you go to them. Get to the point where you're making money off of your first recordings and you're playing shows and your songs and people are moved by them and they're grooving to them and everything. Because once you go work with them, it's not free, it's
be careful. I tell you what, be careful with that advance.
And that it was funny when I don't want to mention who it is because he's a rock and roll Hall of Famer that I worked with. And we were doing a record and he's like, well, let's get as much money from him up front as we can. And I'm like, but then we're not going to be able to make money. He's like, we're not getting any money later on. Like he knew, I was still young in the business. He knew there was not going to be he had been doing this for 50 years. He's like, there's not going to be money later on. We goes, if they don't give us this much, we walk. And I didn't want to walk because I was like, no, man, I wrote these songs and we put in all this. He's like, no. It's got to be this or it's not worth doing. And it upset us at the time, but he wasn't wrong. But you're going to give up something.
Ed, the amount of information just in this conversation is so huge. So it's diamond status. So if people want to get in touch with you, go through Instagram, go through TikTok, and then your YouTube.
I'm on Twitter, which I refuse to call X.
Right, call it X. Yeah.
I'm on YouTube. I got a website, and it's Ed Pettersen, Pettersen. It's spelled the Norwegian way. Two T's, all these, but everybody says Peterson. Don't worry about it. And no, dude. Everybody.
Look how red. I'm so red.
Even you want to laugh? One of my Norwegian friends interviewed me for my last album, and he said Peterson in the interview, and I'm like, what are you doing,
dude? Come on.
So no, they listen. When I was growing up, it was always Peterson.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. I need all the grace I can get. I gotta tell you that right now.
You don't have to worry about with me, man.
Brother, you are just a gem. And I cannot tell you, like, I'm almost emotional. Just thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I wish that I had the direction in my career early on that you're putting out there and giving away for free, because it's not free. The fact is that it costs you a lot of time. It costs you a lot of money, a lot of effort, and a lot of mistakes, and a lot of hell, and a lot of pain, and a lot of triumphs, and a lot of knowing where your talent comes from. And it certainly isn't from you. It certainly isn't from your grandparents. It is a gift from God. And you're able to tell these stories because you live them. Yeah. So they're not free. They're not free. They're so, it's so good and it's so amazing. And listen, I just tell you, thank you so much for doing it.
Forget the mistakes. Remember the lesson.
Amen. Amen. That's huge. On that note, you got to get to your meeting. We're
right, I gotta go. Thanks, back, brother, man.
But thank you so much. I got to tell you, tune in. We're gonna have all the places where you can see Ed Pettersen, right?
It's Pettersen. Forget
Pettersen. Okay.
For you. I'll make you a special deal. It's Pettersen for you. And you want to be my latex salesman.
Be sure to follow Ed. I'm telling you, if you're in the music business and you're not following him, you're doing yourself a great disservice. So for everyone at Work Your Career Wednesday, at White Husky Films, Jane's Physical Therapy, everybody that's hitching their wagon to us, I got to tell you this comes from all of us, that we love you. And God bless you, and let his face shine upon you and give you great peace. Be excellent to yourself and each other, and go follow Ed. We'll talk soon. See you guys later.
See you, brother.
See you next week. Bye. Hey everybody. Wanted to come on and tell you a story. It's a little personal. I've been in a couple accidents that were pretty severe. Rear-ended. At one, I was on the freeway, did a 360. It injured me pretty badly in 3 parts of my back, my hips, and my left leg. On those accidents, on the first one, I didn't get any physical therapy. On the second one, I did. But there's injuries still there. And then when I was a traveling working musician, my shows were pretty lively, and I would re-injure myself, so I would lay on ice when, after a show before I could meet anybody. That said, the physical therapy really helped me. It helped me get back to performing. It helped me walk again. In late 2020, I injured my back again and could hardly walk. Getting from my house to the car was a problem. I can't imagine what it would be like if I was homebound, okay? Like, let's say I had a surgery and I couldn't get to the physical therapist. It would be a severe problem. Let me tell you something. Jane's Physical Therapy is almost enough for me to move to New Orleans, okay? They are specialists in in-home healthcare, covering New Orleans, North Shore, and they're amazing. Casey James, the managing director of Jane's Physical Therapy, he's incredible. Second to none. We've gotten a chance to meet him and to really talk with him, fellowship with him. He is awesome, and his physical therapists are specialists. They are awesome, incredibly amazing. Look, there's a process on how you would work with him, but I'm telling you, go onto LinkedIn, okay? Here's the deal. They're looking for 2 physical therapists, 2 more physical therapists in the New Orleans area. Go onto LinkedIn, okay? Connect with him there. You can even go to his LinkedIn page on LinkedIn. Casey James, CASEY, Connect with him there. Send him your resume. The website will be up soon, so you'll be able to send resumes there. Or you can even send them to me. Go onto my LinkedIn page and shoot me a message. And, we'll even set up a conversation. But I'm telling you, it's an amazing opportunity. The money's great. And working with Casey is really incredible. Okay. He's got a really great network, and a wonderful staff of physical therapists that contract really all over. But for these positions, we're looking in New Orleans and in the North Shore area. I'm still familiarizing myself with Louisiana, but I tell you, you want to go to Jaynes Physical Therapy, Jaynes. As soon as the website's up, we'll let you know. Go on to LinkedIn. In the search tab, type in Jaynes Physical Therapy and connect with him. Follow his page. You will be so glad you did. All right. So I hope it's not too long, but let's get on with the show.
White Husky Films. Dream, create, record. We create ads and promos for your business. We can promote your video on television, Facebook, YouTube, Hulu, and more. We do a full Google SEO analysis for you with any plan. Call us today at 305-744-1444 or visit our website at whitehuskyfilms.com. White Husky Films. You'll be glad you did.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Hey, if you like Work Your Career Wednesday and want to be notified every single time we have a new episode, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Smash it. Get a hammer and get it. And
Yeah, that's fine.
Too much?
No, that's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I love it. People want.
Do you hear Steven in the background? I was just making sure I'm going to be okay. But get that notification going. And hey, we will be letting you know, or I guess YouTube will be letting you know, when the next Work Your Career Wednesday is on. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Man, ding it, ring it, sling it, and bo-bang it. All right? And we will see you soon. Work Your Career Wednesday. Oh, great. I'm glad you stopped by. Be sure to get that subscription bell, and I'll see you there.